So there's a lot of discourse right now about men oppressing women, um, like patriarchy here, patriarchy there, patriarchy everywhere, um, and I feel like to some extent that's real, um, but uh, it also feels like you have to be careful not to get like fatalistic about this stuff, um, and say, well, patriarchy is both everywhere. You can't really uh, envision a world without it, and it's evil. Like that's fatalistic, I think, to say that something's sort of all over the place and it's bad as well. You can't really imagine a world without it. Um, yeah. So I guess that leaves the question: is patriarchy evil? Um, like I don't think it's really in doubt that men can be very oppressive to women, and there's a lot of places in the world um, where I imagine you'll feel very suffocated in many ways if you're born as a woman, or maybe you don't really have that sense of suffocation because there's just not a lot of room to have imagination or to picture something like bigger, something wider for yourself in terms of your life. Um, but yeah, then I also feel like um, there's not a lot of understanding of like the things that men go through um, in terms of what's inherent about being a man that's difficult, whereas for women that's discussed a little more. I think like the pain of childbirth, menstruation. These are pretty like common topics, at least where I live, to talk about. Um, or in my experience, they're common. I don't know if it's that for everyone over here. Um, yeah, I feel like um, the emphasis is very much on um, men making women's life more difficult and on what they shouldn't do um, because their actions make life more difficult for women. Um, and I think that's like very much what's emphasized, um, like to boys as well. Um, like there's talk of how you treat girls, how you treat women, but really it's talk about how you don't treat girls, how you don't treat women. Um, like it's mostly in the negative, like don't be too forward, um, don't go on if she says no. Like these are legitimate things and important things, but um, yeah, you don't really get a harmony between like men and women if you just emphasize what men shouldn't do. I think because then you're just going to have one group of men who really hates those actions, who says we're good because we hate that sort of stuff. Um, we hate people who do that. We hate men who do that. But then on the other hand, you're also going to create the men who do that sort of stuff because if you only talk about what people shouldn't do, um, then they can't really respond in a positive way. They can only like hate the thing they shouldn't do, or hate the fact that they can't do it. Um, like it's just this sort of antipathy of these like two groups, and then you get one group of men in this case who seem just very like sour in life, who are very much about um, oh, men are so horrible. Like I'm a good guy, but I feel so terrible because there are so many horrible men, and then the other group is like, "Ugh, and then it's sort of a parody of manhood, at least in my opinion. Um, yeah, I feel like that's not really getting us anywhere as society. Um, like, but society right now, I think what it fails to understand about men is that um, if you're born as a man, like you receive life, like at the breast, you receive it. Um, uh, and there's this feeling of being in debt, I think, at least for me, sort of in my soul, maybe. And I think it's true for a lot of men, like deep inside of them. Um, like you've received something, but you're sort of out of balance because, well, it's life. You're a man. You can't give life. That's just not something you're capable of. So I think, like from birth, almost immediately, there's this sense of frustration uh, that you're not going to be able to pass life on, to give life to another generation, the same way it was given to you. Um, um, and I think that's very important because that frustration, um, like, that's not something you can just wish away. You can't say, oh, this frustration isn't getting me anywhere, so I might as well not feel it. No, that's not how it works. Like, you do have things to give. That's why you're frustrated. You do have things to offer, just not you're not able to give life. Those the same way women would be. You can't become a mother. You can only become a father. Um, and I think like it's that frustration that leaves us able to do great things. Uh, like not every great thing in the world ever was done by a man, but most of them were, I think. Like apart from giving life, which is its own great thing. Um, but like seeking a purpose, something you're needed, even though you can't pass on the same thing that you were given. Um, I think that's really what builds the world, kind of. Um, what keeps things moving, maybe. Um, yeah, and I think like what we don't really understand is um, that frustration. It doesn't just naturally manifest as the thing you have to offer, what you're able to give. Um, like you don't just magically know what you're good for as a person and not as a man either. Um, so it's right now it feels almost like you have to get lucky, like you have to sort of, well, it's also very much about discipline, but you have to really be like trial and error, um, and kind of fight yourself almost uh, to like stay calm and stay relaxed and not like let that frustration harm the people around you or hurt your environment, like not let it loose on your environment. um, but you do have to find like where to put yourself. um, and we don't live in a society right now where men will be told positively what to do. um, like we talk about that women should have more power, but I think like a lot of the feminist discourse today or the mentality there isn't really about um, women having more power or women showing leadership. It's more about um, women getting to have men do what they want without them having to show humility and ask men for what they want. Uh, um, like, I'm really not trying to sound hateful. Um, but I think you're making it very difficult um, to like um, be a loving person, be a loving man. Um, um, when the man, on the one hand, shouldn't be in control, at least that's what the media say. Um, most media, I think, in the West. Um, they shouldn't have this patriarchal role, and the patriarchy should be smashed or whatever. Um, but also, you're not telling men what they are good for or what you would appreciate if they did. Um, so that only leaves these two camps of like, we hate the patriarchy or we hate the fact that we can't be patriarchal. Like, you're just generating hate at that point. Um, and so I feel we've gone down this road, and it's a sad thing, in my experience. Um, yeah, I don't know. Just try to understand that, like, there's a lot of um, um almost violence to yourself that goes into having that frustration, not knowing what you're good for, not having a purpose, uh, not something to build towards outside of yourself. Um, because society is individualistic now, and it says just live your life. Your life is a gift to you. We don't really care. Um, the frustration that comes with that in women too, I think, but in men specifically, um, it leads you to, um, yeah, you almost want to like cut into yourself and like remove those parts that you don't really know where to put. Um, the parts of yourself that you don't know what they're good for. Um, uh, or you want to hit yourself just to do something with your hands. I don't know if I'm making sense, but yeah. Um, and I think we can live in a very different way from that. And I kind of think uh, not to be everything used to be better kind of guy. Um, but I think we did have like a lot more emotional wisdom about this stuff. Also, just more intuition, maybe, um, on how to manage like um, these different situations, these different ways of growing up that are just kind of natural to being a man or a woman. I think. Um, so yeah. Um, let me know if you agree or disagree. Um, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. So have a great day.